Why am I holding a hammer? Because it's demolition time, baby. Because AI companies have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to art. They're liars, and these guys are the biggest liars. All AI companies have done is fuel tensions between their users and real artists, and that has to stop by dismantling their manipulative, cruel, and uninformed propaganda like this. The most common misperception that AI users have is that artists hate AI art. Not true. Actually, the only thing that we hate right now is the current model. Anything that utilizes the Lion database is what the major opponent is right now. The actual technology of AI art is actually pretty cool. The current model of AI art basically is just a porta potty fire of ethical, legal, and moral complications. As soon as that goes away, or if it were replaced with something that were ethical, artists would totally be on board with it. Let's set that straight. Along with this, y'all, I don't know who started this. I don't know who the first person in the world to come out with this one is, but I really need to dismantle this one. Artists as elitists? Come on, that's right, because we're all living in mansions, we're all living 7-figure lifestyles, we've got multiple cars. Oh wait, no. Those are people in Silicon Valley. The same place where they developed all the AI art technologies. Oh, wait a minute. You mean it's not artists? You mean we're not the ones that are living lavish lifestyles? You mean that we actually have to scrimp and scrounge and we have to fight for our existence, and there are many artists living at or below poverty level? And you mean that artists in general are seen as the bottom of the social totem pole? You mean to tell me that artists are supposedly elitist? However, though, we are also the most underpaid, underrepresented, and the most dissuaded profession to go into. It's seen as not masculine, boys are dissuaded from it, and the general perception around artists is that you can't make a living with it, so the economics of it doesn't make sense, but supposedly we're elitists. Then you've also got idiots like this guy over here who's trying to tell you that somehow AI art is democratizing art so that anybody can do it and that art has been kept from everybody. Here's the reality. Everybody is born an artist. But at some point, you decided that you didn't want to be an artist, and therefore you believe that narrative and you stop taking actions towards it. To say that artists are elitists is the most ignorant statement in the world. The only thing that's preventing you from being an artist is you, and that's it, because you gave up on it because you believe the story about yourself that you told yourself that you thought you weren't an artist. And that's it, really. Anybody's capable of doing this, but that's some hardcore victim mentality when you really get into it, isn't it? If artists are really trying to keep a monopoly on visual development, then explain this. Why in the world do schools cut art programs? Why are art programs constantly defunded? Why, with all of that, who's really trying to keep a monopoly on it? I don't really see the point in this, do you? So unless you've been living under a box, you probably heard about the Netflix short called Dog and Boy that supposedly utilized AI art for all of its backgrounds, and then all the AI bros just went ballistic with that information and ran with it. However, though, I just have to set the record straight, friend. That is not an example of how it has invaded a professional field. Not whatsoever, friend. Because here's the reality of it. Even in the credits, it says AI plus human. Now, you gotta think about this from a legal perspective too, is that there's no way a major company like Netflix would ever release anything that could potentially be legally compromised. So what does this prove? Is that no, this is not a raw AI image, nor is this a lightly touched image. This is a heavily painted over image, in which case the world still needs artists to produce original content that can serve as an original asset to an IP. See how that works? AI companies have spread this concept that AI art was somehow contribute to utopia. The thought that somehow art is holding back the world from utopia is so backwards. Literally, you will never find anybody in the humanities, in the history of humanities, that will support this nonsensical theory stating that the arts are somehow holding back humanity. Instead, it's the exact opposite, my friend. But the arts are literally a force for liberation. They are a force to deliver you from oppression into enlightenment. And in no circumstance has any authority ever said that the arts were an oppressive force. But you know who does say that? Oppressors. This is just nasty, manipulative rhetoric promoted by corporations so that you buy their product, so that their marketing campaign can say that they were successful, so that their profits can go up. It is never about you actually being a better human, you living a richer life, and you overall being a more enlightened being. This topic is gonna light up all the AI bros, but I need to silence it once and for all. Yo, when we talk about the ethics of AI art, the conversation takes a real nosedive real fast because ethics turn into basically just a subjective conversation of I think this, what I think that. But here's the thing, y'all are wrong about this, all right? So here's actually how research ethics work. And just to put some context to you, AI art developed out of a research project. So if you actually check out the APA, the American Psychological Association, there are very simple principles when conducting ethical research. The number one thing that you need to do is follow informed consent. The biggest part of this that's horribly unethical, it's very black and white, is when we talk about the risk-benefit ratio, which it basically says the risk can be physical, psychological, economic, or social about this. Now, AI art is totally unethical in this. Artists were never asked to be a part of it. Artists were never compensated to be a part of it. And if you fact check everything that I'm showing you right now, then you will find that this is very much a horribly immoral and unethical use of research practices to further a corporate agenda. All they're doing is trying to maximize their profits using sleazy, scumbag, underhanded techniques in order to get what they want, which is you, AI art bros, to buy into their product. This has nothing to do with your opinion and has everything to do with well-established research protocols, which they have violated almost every single one of. It's disgraceful, don't you think? So I really need to blame AI developers and their engineers for promoting this nonsense when they say that their neural network of learning is just like the way that humans learn. That is totally false. You will not find a single authority in education, in the humanities, or in the arts that supports this ridiculous theory. In no way, shape, or form does AI art learn like an actual human being. So basically, the way AI art determines what looks good in an image is based on the user data from every single time that it stabilizes an image. The way that humans actually learn, my friend, is a combination of a lot more than what you think does well. It's a combination of your experiences, of your emotional states, of your learning throughout your entire lifetime, and you bring your experience into it. It's not just about what you think looks good. It's actually a lot more involved than that. To liken a machine and its learning algorithms to a human being is a very dangerous path to go down. And I would just ask you this, why do you value technology more than humanity? I don't know who the first person to do this was, but somebody went ahead and stole Pablo Picasso's quote saying that great artists steal. Then to liken that to how AI works, and it actually is stealing images, it actually takes without permission. That is not what Picasso meant. It has nothing to do with actual theft. It has nothing to do with plagiarism. It has nothing to do with piracy. None of that is actually how artists learn. And then this also very commonly gets misconstrued as inspiration. No, that's not the case at all. We learn from the culmination of our life experiences. As an example, as a professional in art education, at no point could I ever give 10,000 people the same exact drawing and have 2 of them come out looking exactly the same. This would not happen because no 2 people are the same, no 2 people look the same, think the same, act the same, and therefore the artwork is not the same. So no, that absolutely is not true. And to say such a thing is honestly just ripe with entitlement and enablement. And that's not something that I think that you want to be categorized as because you just want to use AI art because it's easy for you, not because it's actually how people learn. See how that works? The only research out there that actually corroborates this is by AI art companies because it's marketing and they want you to buy into their product and not feel guilty about it. And they definitely don't want you to feel guilty about this either. One of the greatest successes of AI art companies is their ability to manipulate what they think creativity is. But that couldn't actually be further from the truth. You just having an idea, friend, that's not you being creative. It's the product of what you do with that idea. How many people do you know of that have fantastic business ideas, that think that they could get rich off of an idea? However, though, they never actually do it. Same thing too, where you've got a lot of cheap art clients out there that want to pay artists pennies about the next great novel that they have, but they'll never actually sit down and bang it out. Y'all, you can't call yourself creative if you're not actively laboring over what that creative idea is. Creativity is born of your actual lived experiences and your laborious efforts to bring them to fruition. And a lot of AI users will say that they're just using it to bring their ideas to life, but they're actually not. You're actually using other people's ideas to bring your idea to life. Therefore, it's not your idea, it's their idea that you've superimposed as your idea. See how we got there? When you look at it through that lens and you look at it through the lens of actual art authority and art scholarship, you're going to find that everything that AI companies manipulate and twist about this is totally false. It's just marketing. And then a huge offense too is this. You know, a few months ago, I got this most ridiculous email from OpenAI telling me that, oh, look, I now own the generations I make with DALL-E. But y'all, you have to appreciate the hegemonic power play that this is. What they're essentially doing is they're just transferring not ownership, but responsibility of what you do as the AI user with that product onto you, the AI user. What you have to understand here is that this is, again, just pure corporate greed. They don't want to be responsible for it. They want you to be responsible for it. But when you really see through it, nothing is actually theirs. And then hypocritically, in their terms of service, they also talk about copyright infringement. And they say, if you believe your intellectual property rights have been infringed, please send notice to the address below. Wow, isn't that a double standard? Where'd you get all the artwork for your database from? Man, how do you even say that? Isn't that ridiculous? While you may be using or thought about using AI art just for fun, just for silly things, or just overall to experiment with, here's what I need to warn you about, friend. As this user even says that they use AI art just because they have ideas that they want to get out, quote unquote, and they're not trying to get clout and they're not trying to get money, okay? But here's one thing that I really need you to understand. It still makes you complicit in what it's doing. And from a moral perspective, I do question that. Now, this also wraps into the fact that a lot of AI users have the misperception that artists are ableist. On that topic, here's what I need to say. Human to human here. I'm so empathetic to your situation if you have disadvantages that do not allow you to partake in traditional art making. However, though, regardless of if you're doing it for fun, if you just think that you have ideas that you want to bring to life, here's what you need to understand is that you are partaking and you are complicit in an oppressive system that is meant to disenfranchise, take away their rights, and otherwise keep other human beings down. If you think that AI art, what you're making from it is just fun and games, if you think it's just you being creative, in fact, what you're doing is you're oppressing others. And what this tends to be from is this weird rhetoric from AI companies that's exactly what it should be, is that somehow your inability to create art is oppressing you. And this is classic pedagogy of the oppressed when you really look into it, where the oppressed become the oppressors. And that's something that you don't want to be, because in fact, what you're doing is you're just being pawns in a corporate scheme to make loads of money. And they've succeeded in doing that. And that's what needs to stop. Even if you don't think at the moment that you are oppressing people, you are. And that's what's wrong about the entire system. And again, that's what artists actually oppose. If your creative vision has to be made off of the back of somebody else by stealing from them, and yes, it does happen in the world, but that doesn't make it right. I don't see how you can argue against that, can you? But now that AI art has become so mainstream and you have so many users, they're now actually trying to fraud themselves as real artists, and they're frauding clients into thinking that they can actually produce custom designs and custom artwork. And because of that, you need to be aware of that so that you get caught up in it either, which you can learn all about right here.